everyone. Welcome to the Zone to Speak podcast. I'm your host, Juliana. Hey everyone. At Zone to Speak, I know how important it is to stay healthy, strong, and ready for every ride, workout, and adventure. That's why I'm sharing some amazing discounts on products I personally love, designed to support your health, performance, and overall well-being, whether you are an athlete or just looking to feel your best. Cyclist, their smart pump is a game changer. Compact, efficient, and perfect for keeping your tires road and gravel ready. It's ideal for travel too. You can take it on trips and skip the CO2 canisters. You can even change your tire pressure on the go when switching between surfaces like road and gravel. Get 10% off the smart pump and 5% off everything else. 15% off New Zest. Fuel your body with clean, plant-based nutrition. Their clean, lean protein provides a high-quality, easily digestible protein source with no additional additives, perfect for recovery and sustained energy. Plus, their Good Green Vitality is packed with essential vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants to support your immune system and overall wellness. 15% off Oleos. Oleos offers powerful wellness shots made with adaptogens, nootropics, and functional nutrients to support performance, focus, and recovery. I'll be using Oleos daily in the lead up to my next race, and I have already got my pre- and post-ride shots ready for my long weekend rides. If you are looking for a clean, effective boost, Oleos is it. Use code ZONE2SPEAK15 to save 15%. 20% off First Endurance. Top-tier endurance nutrition designed to support hydration, recovery, and sustained energy for long days on the bike and any endurance activity. 15% off Frey Skincare, made for active lifestyles. Designed for skin that sweats, their all-natural vegan and cruelty-free products keep your skin protected and fresh. I have been using Frey for about 10 years and my skin stays young and has never had a breakout since. 10% off Cold Aid, high-quality supplement to support your health, from multivitamins to probiotics, collagen, and more. I personally take the women's fermented multivitamin and creatine, and I genuinely feel great with them. No nausea, just steady energy and support for recovery and daily health. 10% off Clearly Not Coffee, a delicious coffee alternative from functional ingredients like mushrooms, cocoa, maca, cinnamon, and rhodiola, designed to give you calmer energy, sharper focus, and immune support. Honestly, I can't live without it anymore. It's been such a boost for my energy levels and has helped me navigate perimenopause with more balance and ease. 15% off Ombre Supplements, premium supplement to support your training, recovery, and everyday health. And there's something special from me, your host. As a certified integrative health and nutrition expert and holistic life coach, I'm offering 25% off personalized nutrition and life coaching with Genki Wellness. If you want to optimize your health, improve your energy, and feel your best, head to bemoregenki.com. For all discounts, check out the episode description, use code ZONE2SPEAK at checkout, and let this incredible product support your health and performance. Now, let's get into the episode. Welcome to Zone to Speak. In this episode, I am joined by Kevin Conley Jr., a wildland firefighter, author, and long-distance cyclist whose life story is as inspiring as the miles he has pedaled. Known online as Backcountry Ninjas, Kevin has transformed personal challenges into powerful narratives of resilience and purpose. From battling wildfires to battling personal demons, Kevin's journey led him to the open road, where he found healing and a mission. Riding thousands of miles across the U.S., often accompanied by his loyal dog, Rocky, Kevin uses his adventures to raise awareness for mental health and support causes close to his heart. such as the Wildland Firefighter Foundation. His memoir, Above the Ashes, delves deep into his experience, offering readers a raw and honest look at the struggles and triumphs that have shaped him. Through his storytelling, both written and visual, Kevin encourages others to dream big, be kind, and find the strength in vulnerability. Join me as I explore Kevin's incredible journey, the lessons he has learned from the settle, and how he's using his platform to make a difference. So let's dive
Oh,
in.
that was quite the intro.
Podcast.
Quite the intro, Juliana. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I appreciate it. And those were some very kind words you said there.
It's all you. I came across your story and immediately I was like, I need to talk to him. I need to talk to him. I love the positivity you put out there. Of course, I fell in love with Rocky because I'm an animal lover.
Everyone does. Everyone remembers Rocky in my whole neighborhood. They're like, there's Rocky.
Yeah, I have a dog. I know how it is. I don't think anybody knows my name, but they know my dog.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. How did you find me? Because this is my first international podcast, which is super cool.
Really? Cool. I'm excited. On Instagram. Yeah, I saw
Which one was it?
I don't remember. I think you were walking on the beach and you were talking about the book. And then I went into your account and I was finding more and more about you. And I was like, wow, this guy is really cool. And I just really like how raw you are, how you share your experience and all the positivity. So I was truly inspired and touched.
It's very nice of you. Yeah, I've been known through like my personal friends as like the king of positivity, and I try to be a humble person, but I learned through life a long time ago that's so important is your attitude is really what defines you. It doesn't matter if you're rich or you're poor, it doesn't matter any of your gender or your race, none of that matters. It's your energy. And when you have a positive attitude and you take that everywhere you go, that reflects back on you. So people see that, then they want to be positive, but that positive attitude and that positive spirit changes all your movements in life because it's so interesting. You can compare it to a flat tire where someone gets a flat tire driving down the highway and they're like, oh, darn, this is the worst. This sucks, blah, blah, blah. Instead, with a positive attitude, you're like, this is funny. I got a flat tire. I just got to fix it, you know?
Absolutely. I completely agree. Or just know that, this is meant to be. I was supposed to stop for some reason unknown, and this shall pass. Everything has a solution. So, yeah, no, I agree with you. Your attitude says a lot about you, and it is contagious. We were just talking a little bit earlier, you and I, about the race that in Portugal that I'm doing, and I'm doing with a friend, and we have done as a pair a few times. And I said this before, we do so well together because we both thrive when challenges arise. Nobody's like, this sucks. What the hell? Or it's just like, you know what? Like just like the flat tire. Well, now we gotta fix this. And we have good laughs. Like, oh my gosh, it wouldn't be a real bike ride if we didn't have a flat tire. And carry on. And the lightness of it makes everything better.
100% agree. And that's why it's so important because, everyone's heard this. You're a product of your environment. And I always tell people who you surround yourself with is going to be who you are. So you show me, and I was saying this the other day to someone. I was like, you show me your 5 best friends and I'll show you your future. Because who you surround yourself with is who you are a part of. And when one of you goes down, if you're with 4 other good people, they're going to lift you up. And then when they go down, the 4 other people lift them up. So I always tell people the 5 people you surround yourself, you show me them and I'll show you your future. You surround yourself with people that want to be positive, people that want to be successful, people that care about their family, people that have good values, good morals. Surround yourself with those people and that's going to help you rise above. And you can't fly with the eagles if you play with the turkeys. How about that one?
100%.
You ever heard that?
No, I like it. Like it. Really good. So you worked as a wildland firefighter. How did that experience shape your perspective in life, and how did it lead to your path on two wheels?
Yeah, it was wild. I started long distance hiking. That's how I got into my like true love for nature. I hiked the Appalachian Trail in
Okay.
2012, then the Pacific Crest Trail in
Wow.
2013. Those are two American long distance hiking trails out of the three
Yeah,
big ones,
the Appalachian is
Georgia
from,
to Maine.
yeah, so it's almost the entire coast,
Yeah,
East
you're
Coast.
correct. Yeah, so that goes through 14
Yeah.
states, 2,150 miles. And then the Pacific Crest Trail goes from the Mexican border to the Canadian border through California, Oregon, Washington. And that trail is 2,650 miles. And they're both just, those were like the times of my life. And that's when I fell in love with the woods. And after that, I did
Mhm.
wilderness therapy for struggling teens and then for people 18 to 30 a couple times. And I'd spend 14 days out in the wilderness with them, teaching them how to make fires with a bow drill and life lessons.
Wow.
And then how I got into bike touring. Do you want me to start that story? Because it's wild.
Yeah, let's dive in.
It's a long one. But what was wild was I have this specialized AWOL Elite. I don't think they make it anymore. And I fell in love cycling when lived in Seattle. And I had this bike, but I never went bike touring. And I had panniers and stuff, but I knew nothing about it. And I'm visiting. So long distance hikers, we have trail names. So my trail name's 30 pack. And I, I carried a 30 pack of beer up a mountain on the Appalachian Trail.
Wow.
And so what's wild is that like I'm visiting one of my best friends down in Southern California. He lives at a spot called Hermosa Beach. And I got my bike hanging off my beat up 2001 Subaru. And he's got this map of the American Cycling Association of all their routes in America. And I had nothing to do. And I said, there's a bicycle route that goes from San Francisco all the way back to San Diego past your house. He goes, yeah. And he had just finished riding his bicycle from Manhattan, New York City, like in New York City, to Manhattan Beach, where is right next to Hermosa.
Wow, yeah, in
So he rode
California.
across the
Wow.
country and he's telling me about it. And I see this map. We go out for a few beers. We get back to his house. And I'm like, could I leave my car at your house? And he's like, sure. And
You
I
just
just
left?
hopped on a train up to San Francisco. My buddy picked me up. We took the ferry like 50 miles north of San Francisco and we sat around a campfire and I was like, I'm going to go ride my bike to San Diego. I, I'm a backpacker, so
That's
I know what to
nuts.
bring, but it was just it just happened overnight. And I just hopped on my bike and
Wow.
rode to San Diego and I met this beautiful couple from Belgium. And we rode for maybe 4 or 5 days together. It was my slowest ride. We were doing like 40, 50-mile days. It was in February, so the sun goes down early. And when I met them, they told me a lot about bike touring, and she works for a bike touring. Her name was Vanessa. She worked for a bike touring company. His name was Colin, and he's like this crazy alpine skier and bike tourer too. And I fell in love with like the three of us riding together had this like cohesion and this community. And I was like, this is so cool. Like I don't know, there was this family that felt like my trail family that I met long distance hiking.
Wow.
And I got back to San Diego, took the train back to LA to get my car. And I look at my buddy Cartwheel and I look at the map and I said, there's a route that goes down the whole Pacific coast from Canada to Mexico. I said, can I leave my car here for, I don't know, a month? He goes, sure. So I hopped back on the train from LA up to Seattle. And then I took a bus all the way to the border. And then I rode the entire Pacific Coast all by myself. It rained. It was rained like all of Washington. Then it was sunny for Oregon, California. And I think I did it in about 27 days. So I went
Wow.
from
Incredible.
40 to 50
Incredible.
mile days to 70 to 100-mile days.
So you barely took a break from San Francisco to San Diego, back to LA, and then you're like, okay, now I'm gonna do the entire coast.
Yeah, I don't think in bike to my first, let's see, my first like 5,000 miles. Yeah, I think it was my first 5,000 miles. I didn't get one flat tire. And I don't even know if I took one day off in those first 5,000. And then every
Wow.
year,
I think sometimes maybe if you don't overthink, like you did, you just did it. You're like, well, I'm a long distance hiker. I can do long distance biking, and you just went for it.
I
Incredible.
fell in love with
Wow.
it. And then I just started doing San Francisco to San Diego. I always go to the border of Mexico just because it's like, I don't know, it's something in my head because the Pacific Crest Trail starts there. And it's about 650 miles. And I think I've done that 6 times or something, 7 times. I honestly
Wow.
can tell, I don't remember, but I've done it a bunch. I just love being on my bike.
I don't blame you. Yeah. How how amazing. I'm like mind blown that you just saw a map and was so inspired and was just like, I'm gonna leave my car here and go on my bike.
Yeah, Appalachian Trail, Pacific Crest Trail, my bike tours, I've started them all alone. And, you have these amazing people you meet along the way, people that help you.
And what did you use for navigation? Did you had a bike computer or you're just like old school maps?
They have this great app are you familiar with the American Cycling Association?
No.
Okay,
No.
so it's a huge nonprofit in America that has mapped these routes and helped put signs up and bikeways and stuff like
Cool.
that. And they've done incredible work over a long period of time. They have a magazine called Adventure Cyclist, which
Okay.
I'm pretty sure has like 80,000 subscribers. It was the first time I wrote an article for a magazine. I was like, no way, you guys want me to write an article for like a magazine that I really like? And so they've put together all these routes. And now I forget your question.
What were you using for
Oh, navigation.
navigation?
So they have an app. It's called Bicycle Route Navigator, and you download sections. It's like
Cool.
$5.99 a section, and then you look at your
Mhm.
phone. And the Pacific Coast Highway, out of one of the routes that I've done, is fairly easy to follow because after you leave Washington State, it's a little tricky going through Washington. You hug the Oregon coast. So you're on the 101 almost the whole coast, and then you
Okay.
hop over in California through the redwoods. You go through the redwoods for 100 and something miles. It's incredible. These, some of the oldest, tallest trees in the world. And after you go through there, you're pretty much on Highway 1 all the way to the border.
Oh my gosh, that must be beautiful. That's on the bucket list for me and so many other
You
people.
got to do it. And if you do it, a lot of foreigners don't do this, but the wind, so the wind, you call it from what direction it's coming from. So it's like a northwestern wind. So it means it's blowing to the south. So you almost have a tailwind every single day. And if you go that way, there's no interference from cars because you're on the shoulder. So you have the ocean view,
Okay.
tailwinds, and you can camp for $5. Oregon, it's camping for $5 if you're on a bike, free showers. And so they have all these hiker biker sites. The Pacific Coast Highway is just like, it blows your mind how beautiful it is.
Nice, nice. I went to school in Seattle, so I have a little bit of a taste of the mountains there. Did a lot of hiking as well, but I wasn't cycling. It was in the 90s when I was there, and I wasn't, I had a bike, but it was just commute and stuff. But yeah, that would be a dream come true. So we have to go from north to south. That's when you get that tailwind all the way.
And then I just got back from a mini bike tour. So I was just up on the San Juan Islands, were right off the coast of Seattle.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's like, if you're an intro to America or you're an intro to bike touring, that's one of the best places to start is the San Juan Islands, because everyone gives you plenty of room and you're just riding around these islands. And I did it with this beautiful, amazing woman I just met. And it was like our second date, which ended up being eight days long. And every day we got like the best sunset, beautiful campfires. We're camping on the beach and we're seeing orcas, eagles, sea lions. So if you want a bike tour, just fly out to the San Juans and then do the Pacific Coast.
Magical. Wow. Okay. Now the dream touring bike trip, it's getting bigger.
You should never stop dreaming, never stop growing. Like I always tell people, like, always keep building, always keep growing, always listen. Try to be calm in life and just listen to the sounds around you. But you got to grow, you got to build, you got to keep learning, and you always got to keep dreaming and you chase those dreams, you chase those goals. When you achieve one goal, make another goal and keep chasing those goals and never give up. People set these goals and they meet them and then they just stop. It's like, no, make a new goal.
Yeah.
You always got to move forward. You always got to keep making progress in life and always keep learning, because there's infinite wisdom. You never know who you're going to bump into that will tell you like the simplest thing, like, these easy sayings. You got follow your heart, love always wins, chase your dreams. There's wisdom all around you. You just got to follow it. And some people just hear it. They don't really feel it.
Very, very wise words. And I wish I had known that when I was younger, because I think a little bit later in life that I started to write down goals. And, some people might think that's silly, but that's how you accomplish things in life. When you write a goal, a dream, and you pursue that, and then, like you said, just write another one, then you start to really picking.
Yeah. And it's
Absolutely. Those are the steps.
and it's hard. It's hard. Like for me, because and I'm sure like you, I'm a dreamer. So I have like all these dreams. There's just countless dreams. And it's hard because you got to try to balance this work-life balance. I hate that term, but I have these huge
Yeah.
dreams. I want to ride the Great Divide, and I also want to hike the Continental Divide Trail, and I also want to bike the Pacific Coast again. I have endless dreams, and sometimes we get caught up in life where we're like, we have to make money, we have to find stability. Well, yes, you do need stability. We need that, but you're only going to get one life to live. So I lived my life in reverse. I started hiking. I backpacked the Appalachian Trail when I was 23. I turned 24 on the trail. And like when
Wow.
you look at it, I don't want to be 65. And that's when I'm like, oh, I'm going to go ride my bike 1,000 miles, 2,000 miles. Do these things when you're young and you can, because money's going to
Absolutely.
come and go. I can guarantee you that.
Yep.
Like your car's going to break down, but like go ride your bike, go for a long hike, do it. Just do it. People put these on the back burner, and then you go to a nursing home. You ask anyone in a nursing home what they'd change. I wish I did it when I was younger. That's
Yeah.
when my grandmother, before she passed away and I visited the nursing home, she was like, I'm so proud of you doing this while you're young, because people are sitting around this nursing home wishing they hiked the Appalachian Trail when they were your age. And then they get old and they can't do it.
Can't do it, or you don't do it the same as, with the same health. And I completely agree. I mean, yeah, people need to pay bills, and there is that word, that term, work-life balance, but you do need to work on this balance, money, like I said, money comes and goes, but time goes by fast. So if you don't start putting the time to do the things you love.
You just touched on my favorite thing, time. Because time, you can't replace it. You can't change it. You can't put it in your pocket. You can't
Go
you
back.
can't go back. So what you do with your time is so precious because it's immeasurable. So spend time doing what you love. spend time giving back to the world, spend time wisely, because this time there's no rewind. It's going to continue moving. And sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It's just like when you think about time, it's so important. Live your dreams, because you're never going to get a second chance. You're never going to grow.
Yeah.
You're going to keep
No.
growing just like a tree. Branch out, because you're going to keep growing up. And one day you're going to be too tall and you're going to have roots and you're not going to be able to branch out no more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, what I was going to say is that I'm going to try to make it very short. So it's this story that says, try to give this message that there is this retired guy that goes on a trip fishing to this small town. And he gets there, the fisherman takes him around, and the retiree says, wow, you have something really nice here. You should employ someone to work for you and then get more boats, and then you can make a lot of money. And then the fisherman turns to him and say, yeah. And then I'll do this until your age. And now you're retiring, coming here to do what I do every day. So you get it, right? Like, why would, of course, some people want to build an empire, but why would he want to build an empire to then retire and do what he's doing now? So it's all about your values. Go back to what you said in the beginning. What are your values?
Yeah, like, because I'm at like a pivotal point in my life. I'm about to be 38, and like I want to get married and have kids, and I understand I need stability to do that. So I'm trying to grow these different, not empires, but I'm trying to do different things where I can fight fire for 6 months. I just got hired to work for a nonprofit. So I'm going to try to, and I'm writing books. I have a children's book series. I'm working on a second book. I'm working on a poetry book. I want to become a best-selling author, but my goal with Above the Ashes was never about the money. It was to help others. And so others know they weren't alone and they can get through the most painful moments in life. But I'd like to expand my writing career but balance these, adventures. But right now I'm trying to get more stability, but still have like, oh, I got 2 months off, grab my girlfriend, if she'll be my girlfriend, and we can just go ride bikes and hike through the mountains. And so it's a tough balance, but anything's possible if you believe in it and you strive to make it happen.
Exactly. Just work on that dream and make it possible. And I think you more than anyone know that's possible. Now that you brought up Above the Ashes, your book is raw, it's personal, look at your life. What was the writing process like? And did anything surprise you as you put your story to the paper?
The writing process blew my mind. I wanted to write a book for so long, and I did so much research on writing when I started writing. So what inspired the book was when I rode my bike across the entire country, so many people reached out to me when I talked about suicide and depression, and I was vulnerable. And there were so many people that were like, you helped me so much. And people said I changed their life. And I was like, if I can do this through just like Instagram stories and news interviews and podcasts, what if I wrote a book, something tangible that I could, sometimes I give them out to people that are struggling, which I shouldn't do because I still need to make money, but I try to live, selfless and give back. But the writing process is not easy. I want to say the first 9 chapters. I originally wrote the book as a diary. So it was almost like day 1, day 2, day 3. I wrote for 3 months and I deleted it all. I was like, this book is trash. It was boring. It wasn't entertaining. But that trained me to start being a better writer. And at the time I lived in Salt Lake City, and I wrote over all the walls. They were covered like graffiti. Wow. And I did a chapter breakdown, and I wrote down like writing stuff. Like one of the keys to writing is to describe things, not to say them. So I'm not going to say it was a red fire truck. I'm going to say something like this truck painted like old rusty bricks came running down the road with sirens as loud as train horns. So you're trying to, that's not the best analogy, but you're trying to describe things to the reader versus just saying, oh, there's a red fire truck. And that was a difficult learning curve. But how I did it was I would just free write. I wouldn't edit anything. I would just write what came to my head, and I would just write. Went down to the Salt Lake City library, and I would just write. And then I would go back later and I would edit it, and then I would proofread it and edit it, and then I'd make corrections. And then it's like a 10-step process, really. And then I would read it out loud, and it never made really sense, but you have to read it out loud. Then I would edit it again, and then read it out loud again. It was like I had this all written down. It was just about 10 steps of free writing, editing, proofreading, editing, reading out loud, editing, reading out. It's a long process. And then, finally, when I finished the book, I sent it to a professional editor, and like I realized I can tell a story, but I'm not an editor. That's why you have editors. I can't tell you, she probably had 50 red lines on every page because I do run-on sentences, and I'm not too good at what they call like syntax, I think they call it, where this should be at the beginning of a paragraph versus the end. So you definitely need an editor. But yeah, it took me, I want to say it was about 11 months. And the last 4 months, I sold all my stock that I had, and I paid my rent for the last 4 months, my car payments, everything. And I just focused fully on the book because I didn't want any distractions. And yeah, no, writing's a lot. It's not just like, I'm going to write a book. It's a long process, but it's worth it if you believe in it.
And you have an incredible story. So glad you put it out there. And what role does this storytelling through writing or social media play in your healing and advocacy work? But not just writing, because you also have the social media channels, and I consider that storytelling as well. Wow.
Yeah, writing for me is so therapeutic. And I didn't know that when I started writing the book, how therapeutic it was to just write. And when you write these things down, you start to understand yourself better. So writing my book was actually helped heal me even more after my bike ride. Like the bike ride really healed me because I was diagnosed with a severe panic disorder and I had depression. I almost took my life twice in 1 week, and that bike ride changed my life. And then I healed double time when I wrote the book because I went back, and some of it was really hard to write, but it helped me heal because I had to push some of this trauma, not push it. I had to feel it and go through it.
Again, yeah.
I just learned all these lessons when I was writing. Like, it takes true courage to be vulnerable. Like, that's what a true man or woman is like, if you want it to be tough, is to be fragile. And it takes courage to speak out. And I learned, like, when I started talking about depression and suicide and my panic disorder, when I started talking about that, it was like everyone I met, and I got so many messages, but just people at the dog park, when I was telling them I was writing a book and talking about depression, it was like, I have depression. I went through depression. My uncle took his life. Everyone can relate to it.
Yeah.
But not until you open up. So many people are afraid to open up. And that's something that I really wanted people to know in my book. My book is kind of this adventure story, but it goes deep into mental health. And that was something I wanted people to know, is they're not alone, and it takes courage to speak out. Like, you're brave speaking about what you're going through. And people walk around life and they're like, hey, how are you? Oh, I'm doing good. How are you? Good. No, like, ask your friends, how are you really doing? Because I care about you. Like, if you're going through some shit, like, we can talk about it. Or the best thing you can do if someone's going through something is to listen to them.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. That strength is being fragile and also being there, just like I'm here. A distraction, a shoulder, anything to your, people that you consider a friend, or not even like even someone at the dog park, anyone. It's important. So you touched on what you went through with the bike and the riding healing you. So at what point did the cycling become more than a physical outlet and turn into this deeper and even healing experience for you?
Ooh. Well, do we want to go back to the night I almost killed myself?
If you want to.
Yeah, no, I'm comfortable with it. So what happened, I mean, it was a true miracle. So it's wild to think how it all happened. I silently suffered for a year, and I was having these panic attacks that would last 2 or 3 hours. I was having them all day. They came out of nowhere. And I was like, I was a hotshot wildland firefighter, and I thought I was and it's like a stigma with men that we think we're so tough that we can't tell people we're weak and we're going through all this shit. So I would have 2 or 3 beers to calm down my panic. And I got so sick of that. Like I'd tie up my shoes to go run, and I'd make it a quarter mile down the road, and I'd have a panic attack and have to go home.
Wow.
And it'd be 10 o'clock at night, and I just wanted to go to bed, and I'd start having a panic attack, and then I'd have 2 or 3 beers. I didn't want to talk about it, so I would just calm myself down. And then I started getting deeply depressed, and I was just afraid to ask for help. Or there's so many people that looked at me for my positive energy and like looked at me like I would never go through this, that I felt like I could never talk about it. And when I was so sick of suffering and I was so depressed, it was crazy. I'll never forget it. I had all the lights off in my apartment, and I was drunk, and I didn't want to live anymore. And I was fully ready to kill myself. And I always tell people, if I owned a gun, then I wouldn't be talking to you right now. I would have 100% shot myself. I didn't own a gun. So I had Rocky, and I decided I was going to drive my truck as fast as I could, 100 miles an hour, into a brick wall, one of the concrete barriers on the highway. And so I had all the lights off, and I'm drinking way too much, and I'm depressed. It's late at night, 2 a.m, and I'm crying, and I pour out 40 pounds of dog food, and I don't write any notes. I don't call anybody. I was just totally done. And I go to open the door to my apartment, and something comes over me. God, really. And something just comes over me as I grab the door, and I close my eyes, or something closed my eyes, energy, whatever you want to call it. And I feel a hand on my shoulder, and I hear my dad's voice in my ears. I hear my dad's voice, and I can feel a hand on my shoulder. And he says, "You never give up, son. You never give up." And I close the door, like I stop opening the door, and I just sit there and I cry. And I decided right then I wasn't going to kill myself. And it was a miracle. It was just a miracle. I was dead set on doing it. There was nothing that was going to stop me. And as I'm sitting there, I see my touring bike, and I see a map of the United States. And it's the end of October. And I'm like, I'm just going to get on my bike. The only route you can ride that time of the year in the United States is the Southern Tier. And I called the Wildland Firefighter Foundation that night, and they called me back the next morning, and I said, "Hey, I'm going to go ride my bike 3,500 miles across the country. I want to raise money for the Wildland Firefighter Foundation." They help families when wildland firefighters are killed in the line of duty, and they also help wildland firefighters that are going through mental health crises and help them get therapy. So they do it's an amazing nonprofit. And I'm real close with Burke Miner, who's the executive director. And he called me back the next morning, and I told them my story and they fully supported me. And next thing you know it, I was on a train with Rocky from Salt Lake City to San Francisco. I added 500 miles to the southern tier. It normally starts in San Diego. We have this saying in fire, nobody cares, dig harder. So I was like, nobody cares. And I've ridden San Francisco to San Diego before. I love Big Sur and that route. So I just added 500 miles just for who cares? Why not? And yeah, I just started riding and it was wild because I'm towing because I was mentally ill. I had like 45 pounds of dog food,
Oh
which
my
if
God.
you're ever towing a dog, just get like 5 or 10 pounds and just refill, a few towns later. But I'm crazy. So I got dog food and toys. He's got a bed and I got
How did
all
you
this.
push all that?
It was like 150 pounds. It was something like that. It was crazy. I think it was 175 when I started, and then I got his dog food down. I got to the Golden Gate Bridge. I got off the train. I had never towed a trailer before. I called my dad. I'm riding up this big hill coming out of the Golden Gate Bridge. And I called my dad and I said, Dad, I promise you, I will finish this, but I am never, ever, ever towing a dog ever again. I told him that 5 minutes into my ride.
That's so funny.
That's the wild thing is like when we go back to like our mental, like like it's all connected. Your nutrition, your mental health, your physical health, that's all
100%.
all connected. But your mental fortitude, when you build that up over time, becomes so powerful. And I built it up through all my long distance hiking and all my cycling and running a marathon, running an ultra marathon. I built this fortitude where I do not fail. Like I just can't because in my head, there's no quitting. That's not an option. And I always tell people, don't make excuses. Like the second I don't want to go to the gym, I go to the gym. When I don't want to go for a run, I put on my shoes. And that reinforces it to where all of a sudden now I'm like, I've just got my shoes on and I'm running for fun because I hate running, but I'll go run 10 miles.
Yeah, it's true. You're stronger than you think you are. And when you think you are depleted, you always have a little bit more in you. So you're right. Yeah. It's also very mental. Like you said, you need to build that mental strength if you don't have, because it's not just physical, everything's connected. So you touched on Rocky, your dog. How was logistically, emotionally, and in terms of community response has changed your trips riding with him?
Well, riding across the country with him was a pain in the ass, but I got so much support from Wildland Firefighters where they would watch him for a day or two. And then my dad came out for 10 days and had him in a car. So I just had my bike. And so when I shed that, 90 pounds of, between him and the trailer, then I was able to do 90, 100-mile days. So I did the 3,500 miles in 47 riding days and then 52 full days. I took 5 rest days on that trip. But if I didn't have that support from all these wildland firefighters across the entire country, and then my dad coming out for 10, 11 days, I joke with people, I'd still be riding my bike across the country. Because when I started with him, I did my first day, I believe, San Francisco to, gosh, where did I make it that first day? It skipped my brain, but you weren't allowed to camp there. And I camped at it was a state park, but they didn't have camping. And so I stealth camped, and I think it was 47 miles that first day. And that felt like I did 100 because my biggest bike day is like 120. And it felt like I rode that even I was like, how am I 47 miles? And it took me the entire day.
Wow. Yeah. Well, it's not easy riding.
Also looking at a few thousand feet of elevation gain.
Yeah. I don't know how you did it, honestly. It just, those climbs with a trolley and a dog and the dog food and everything. I'm sure not only your dad helped you with the logistics, but also it was probably also a boost of emotional energy there, having him support you on the road.
It was wild because Juliana, from a few days before, when I'm holding that doorknob and an angel saves my life, and I'm fully committed to taking my life, no letter, nothing, fully committed. There was nothing that was going to stop me. That when angel came down, the second I started riding my bike across the country, I felt better. And it blows people's mind. But the thing is that challenge builds character. And in life, we always need a purpose.
Yeah.
And part of my struggle,
that gave you purpose.
I had purpose. So when I set off to ride across the country, I had 3 goals. And on all my bike rides since then, I try to have 3 goals in mind. And one of those goals was to overcome my panic disorder. So to find calmness and stillness in my mind and retrain my brain and heal. And then the second one was to raise money for the Wildland Firefighter Foundation. And then the third one was to raise awareness about mental health. And if you read the book, I accomplished my 3 goals.
Well done. Well done. The work you're doing is amazing, and your book and your channels, I'm sure, are touching and helping a lot of people. I want to touch on something that I don't remember if I read or how I came across, but it was a very touching moment for me, and I really, really love that story. I don't know if that's what you're going to share, but wanted to ask you, what is one of the most powerful or surprising encounters you've ever had while bike touring across the country?
It's easy. It was the most humbling moment of my life. One of them. I've had up to that point. So I was on the news in Phoenix on Fox, and I was riding through an Apache reservation, and I guess they all watch the news. And I stop at this place called the Apache Burger, and it's so hot. We're in Arizona, and I'm sitting in the shade, and I go inside, and I got Rocky with me, and there's this huge football-looking guy, Apache, in front of me. And he turns around and he goes, "Is that Rocky?" And he goes, "I think I saw you guys on the news last night." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't want to make a scene. There's, 50
Right.
people in the restaurant." And he kind of turns around to everyone, a lot of them know each other. And he goes, "This is Kevin and Rocky. He's the firefighter riding his bike across the country." And I'm, I don't get shy or nervous, but, I was like, I didn't want the attention. I try to be humble. And he goes, we're all ordering food, and I'm eating my food outside in the shade with Rocky and feeding him, getting him water. And he comes outside and he's with these they're probably high school kids. And he said, "We would like to sing you this it was like a war song, but it was also a song for Apaches when they went hunting. And it's called Coming Home." And he calls the kids off this bus. They just happen to be on this up like an hour or so away. They were at a parade where they had on, their garments and feathers and stuff. I mean that out of all respect, and war paint. And so they had all that off, and they were just, in their, jeans and t-shirts. And he said, "We want to sing you this song to wish you safe travels on your journey." And the kids get off the bus, and one's got a drum, and they sing me this like 10, 12-minute ancient Apache song. And I was just like in tears, because they're singing me a song that was probably sung for thousands of years. And they're doing it for me and Rocky to wish us safe travels across the country. And I got these teenage boy. It was one of the most touching moments of my life. And then the next morning, that night I had like one of the most amazing sunsets. I camped on the Apache lands. I had to jump over this barbed wire fence. So I had to like take the trailer apart and panniers and I camped out there. And whenever I camp on really anywhere, there's a lot of sacred native lands. I mean, all of America's native lands. I always say, I respect these lands. Thanks for having me here. I appreciate you. I have a deep appreciation for all the natives in America. One of my best friends is a Navajo down in Chinle, Arizona, and the Apaches treated me with so much love. And there was people that told me, "Oh, you got to be careful on the Apache lands." But that goes back to what I was saying earlier, like this energy that you put out is the energy you receive. And so like they gave me this blessing right when I got there.
Yeah.
And I camped there, see one of the most magical sunsets, just like this dripping red, these like oranges and purples. And it was like, I felt like I was like at home on their lands, like they saw the respect in me and I respected them. And the next morning, I pull up to this little spot to get water. And this Apache pulls up with his wife and he comes over and he's got this cowboy hat on and he has what they call sinew. It's like a thread that they make. And I guess when they're younger and they become an adult, their grandfather, their father gives them an arrowhead and they tie it to this cowboy hat. And he pulls out this huge butcher knife off his hip. And he was like, I heard about you. The whole word got through the whole Apache Nation. And he takes off his cowboy hat and he cuts it off and he gives me this arrowhead. And I wish I had my wallet with me. I carry it in my wallet to this day.
Magical.
And he says, "This is for safe travels." And it was just amazing. Like what the Apaches were just giving me so much love. And it was all these people along the way that helped me heal, that were helping me like come back to life. I was having these miracles that were so serendipitous that what were the chances if I was 20 minutes later or 20 minutes earlier, I would have never met these guys, and these kids that sung this ancient, tribal song. And same with at the gas station. If I was just a mile behind or a mile ahead. And so all these magical miracles were happening around me. And it was just like every day.
Yeah. You're getting like messages all the time to keep going and showing how life can be. And I had goosebumps when I first heard this story, and I had goosebumps now. It's so beautiful. And it's especially that, knowing the history, American history of, the Native Americans and the white people. And it's just so special that they welcomed you. They sang you this song, and him giving you this was passed from, from his father to him, and then just cutting it off and giving it to you for your protection. It's incredible.
Yeah, it was amazing. And it's wild. I had so many people of every race help me. Everyone. I went through one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, like through what they'd call the ghetto or the hood.
Yeah.
And these African Americans were so stoked to see this guy with, I got big curly hair. And I stopped at this liquor store to get a Gatorade. And they're like, you're riding your bike? You rode your bike all the way from San Francisco? And most people would think, oh, I was the only white person for, maybe miles. And it's same with that energy. And there's two people on my whole bike ride that told me I was going to get hit by a car and die. And you'll never guess those two people: a police officer and a priest.
Oh my God. The ones that are supposed to protect you.
Out of all the people, and I'm not hating on a priest or a police officer. I love my first responders and I believe in God. But I just think it's so ironic that out of everyone, those were the only two people. Another one of my favorite stories of someone that helped me and I'll have to talk about my father, but and this is touching because it's these little moments, and people like it's always the little things in life. We always want these big things. It's the little things that make up the big things, and it's these little special moments in life. And I've always tried to live with a grateful heart. And I'm down, gosh, in New Mexico, and I went to this famous place to get food, and they let me. I had a flyer that I carried around to donate to the Wildland Firefighter Foundation. Oh gosh, I wish it was called Frosty's. What was it? Anyway, it's not important. It's this famous little restaurant in the middle of nowhere. It's out by these chili fields, and I hung my flyer up, and I take this. The route takes you on this back road, and then there's the interstate. And I'm on this back road, and I probably rode, I don't know, 15 miles
Okay.
and maybe 20. And I'm on this back road way off the interstate. And this green, like tinted out Jeep is driving real slow behind me. And I'm riding on the opposite side of the road because it was a quiet road. So I didn't have to think about cars coming behind me. And you could see forever. The road was so flat. So I'm on the opposite side of traffic, and I'm kind of freaked out. I'm like, why are they going 5 miles an hour? Because I'm towing Rocky. And all of a sudden they pull over a little, like 20 feet ahead of me, and I'm going so slow. And a lady opens the back door, and she has a car seat right there. And she comes over and she says, sir, we read your flyer. And it was a Mexican American. She might have been from Mexico. We didn't talk too much. And she said, we read your flyer. And she put her hand on me and she said, I just wanted to let you know that we'll be praying for you. We really, really like what you're doing. And she gave me $5 and she gave me a hug and said, we'll be praying for you. And they drove it was like 45 minutes out of their way just to give me $5, give me a hug and say they're praying for me.
Wow.
And it's little moments like that
Yeah.
that like change your life. Like I'll never forget that lady.
Yeah. Simple gesture of kindness. Incredible.
And I had these little moments happen, and they moved my heart, and they made me a more generous person. They made me a more grateful person. They made me a better person because I saw the effect it had on me, and it made me want to be a better person and also live with more integrity, where it's like, do things when no one's watching, because that's what life is. Your character is pretty much defined by what you do, how you act, how you respond to things. And when you do nice things for people, you don't like, I shouldn't even say this on a podcast. Like I help homeless people a lot. I never posted on social media.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. I agree with that. Charity that doesn't need to be public. You don't need to advertise. I mean, in a way, just to show what others can do, yes, but not for self-promotion.
when, fundraising stuff, I have to.
You have to, obviously, that's different because you need help from others.
Right. But yeah, like on the back of my book, this is one of my favorite quotes that I wrote. Can I share this?
Yes, of course.
I wrote, remember that life and your character are not built upon how many times you are broken and beaten down. They will be defined by the strength and the power that you provide yourself to stand back up and overcome the adversity that will strike us all.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautifully said. And what's next for you? Any upcoming rides, projects, or goals that you are excited about? Besides the girl?
Yeah, well, maybe I should say it on podcast. I'm going to marry this girl. So when it happens, I call her Ocean Eyes. She has the prettiest blue eyes I've ever seen. And she's like one of those radiating, she's like a sunflower, and she's just beautiful inside and out. She's so like, she just walks into a room and everyone's like so happy. She's so kind, and like her beauty it's amazing. She's beautiful, but it's her heart, and that she's just awesome. So if it happens, one day we can look back and be like, hey, I married that woman.
Yeah.
But this year's been wild. So I just did a ride in January from Astoria, Oregon to San Francisco, California. And I did that in January. Do not do that in January. It was so cold and rainy, but it's the off season of wildfire. And
So
I was like
time ahead, yeah.
running, and I needed purpose. I needed something. And so I just got on my bike, got a dog sitter, and decided to ride my bike down the coast and raise money for the foundation again. And we ended up raising a lot of money for the Wildland Firefighter Foundation, and it helped heal me through some personal things. But talk about one of the most wild things that has ever happened in my life. I mean, I could go on and on. The Apache story is one of my favorites. But on my first day from Astoria, I rode 65 miles to Rockaway Beach. And I get to the hotel. My brother sends me a text. He goes, hey, I got you a hotel. And I'm looking, it's on the beach. I'm looking at this beautiful, beautiful sunset. And my phone tells me I got this email from Melanie Gladys. And Melanie and Frank Gladys, their son, Patrick Gladys, was a career firefighter. And he fought fire for over 10 years. He was on hotshot crews. He was on helicopter crews. He was a type 1 helicopter manager, and he took his own life a few years ago. So they're big on mental health, and they had read my book, and they signed up for my newsletter. So I sent an email out saying, hey, I'm going to ride 1,000 miles. My goal is to raise $5,000 for the foundation and talk about mental health. Before I even posted anything on social media, I get this email from them and an email from the fundraiser says, you've achieved your goal. We raised $5,000 in less than 24 hours, and I didn't even post it on social media. It only went out to my newsletter. And they said, we would like to meet with you, and if you would carry some of Patrick's ashes down the coast so he can go on an adventure with you and then drop his ashes off in the San Francisco Bay. And I just started crying. And
yeah, I'm almost crying now.
I was like, it took me like an hour. I took a shower and I was crying, and I called her, and we had this really emotional talk. And Frank Gladys drove down the next day from Astoria and gave me some of his ashes, and we had a heart-to-heart discussion just over a cup of coffee. And yeah, I carried Patrick's ashes roughly 1,000 miles, and I had these moments where, I'm not crazy, but I would talk to him, and
Of course,
I'd
yeah.
be like, Patrick, look at this sunset. And I had the ashes, sometimes around my neck. And it was just one of the most humbling and honoring things I've ever been asked to do. And they were the reason that we hit the fundraiser the first day. They pledged $3,500 into the Wildland Firefighter Foundation. And yeah, sometimes I'd be going through like a really scary tunnel or a place where there was no shoulder. And I knew I had this guardian angel because there'd be no cars. Like I'd be going through like a tunnel uphill, which is so scary, and there'd be no cars. He was right there with me, my guardian angel. And then I would feel like this gust of wind when I'd be going up a big hill. And I was like, Patrick's right here. And it was just,
incredible.
It was wild. And so
I'm sure it was super healing for his parents as well.
Let me show you this thing. So I'm going to mail this off tomorrow. So I'm sending this to his parents.
Wow.
And so this is Wildland Firefighter Foundation flag that I carried when I rode 3,500 miles across the country. I carried it when I rode Mexico to Canada in 2023. And then I carried it on the 1,000 miles. So I've had this flag for a long time. And then I carried this American flag when I rode the 1,000 miles with Patrick. And then I put it in this frame and I wrote In loving memory and honor of Patrick Gladdock's, one day we will tie in again. Bike tour, Astoria, Oregon to San Francisco, California for the Wildland Firefighter Foundation. Thank you for the angel's wings and riding with me, your friend Kevin.
Oh, wow. That's so beautiful. What a wonderful gesture. I mean, this is going to be so special for his parents. I'm sure they're also going through so much. It's never easy to lose somebody, and I cannot even imagine lose somebody that took his own life. Beautiful.
It's really sad. He was a really adventurous person, skydiving, and what do they call it when you jump off cliffs?
Yeah,
he was doing
free diving. It's not free diving. Yeah, but I know what you mean.
Yeah. And he was just this adventurous, badass firefighter. And yeah, it was just an honor. And Melanie made me promise her that I would never, ever take my life. And I made that promise to her. And I'll always stick to that promise. And I've talked to her a few times after my ride. We stay in touch, text messages here and there. But yeah, it's wild. And on my last day of that bike tour, I met a man in a parking lot. I was getting some water at a little convenience store, and I just happened to pull my bike next to this guy, and he was crying. And I just walked up to his car, and I was like, "Are you okay?" And he said, "No, I want to kill myself." And I said, "I got a hotel. It's about 30 miles from there." I sat in his car. It started raining. I sat in his car for a little bit. We talked, and then I invited him to the hotel, and we called Melanie. Melanie Gladdock's talked to him for a little bit, and then I said, "Just sit here, and I'll listen to you." And he sat there for about 2 hours, and we talked, and I told him about my story and my journey. I told him about Patrick and his ashes, and he was like, "You saved my life. I'm not going to do it." And he said, "Last night I held a gun to my head right where you met me." He said, "I don't know who sent you to meet me, but someone sent you to this. I just happened to stop at this. There was 20 places I could have got water within like 3 miles of there, and I just happened to stop there."
Wow. So touching. And this is just one of the few examples that you are helping others. And I'm sure there's so many more that you don't even know about. So people, reading your book, knowing your story, really incredible. How do you think the cycling community can better support those dealing with trauma, grief, or mental health struggles? And how can this community also support you?
Well, I think it goes beyond cycling. I think one of the most important things in life is discipline and consistency. But your physical health, I think why we get like the cycling community, why we love it, other than sharing like these bike rides, like you said with your friend, is that we have this challenge, we have this purpose, and we're getting out, we're sweating, and we're getting our endorphins going, and we're making ourselves stronger. And, running, hiking, cycling, going to the gym, this physical health is tied into our mental health. So when we push ourselves physically, it helps us mentally. How the cycling community can help me, I don't know. I love cycling. I'm never going to stop riding a bike. The funny thing is, I love bike touring, but I just roll out of bed and go ride 1,000 miles. When I rode 1,000 miles in January, I hadn't ridden a bike in 18 months.
I don't know how you do it.
Oh, we just got to stick together. The cycling community, all communities, we just got to remember we're all fighting the same struggles. We're all fighting the same battles. And you can walk by a stranger. You never know what they're going through. So always be kind to people, treat people with respect and dignity, help homeless people, give your mom a hug a stranger. And just remember, never give up. You're never alone, and challenge yourself and always have a purpose. When you have a purpose and you're thriving for something, it helps you keep those demons at bay and keep them at rest. And when you're going through trauma, talk about it. Be open about it. Be vulnerable. And don't be afraid to ask for help.
Well said. Well said. Wise words. And it boils down to just being a good human. And I think that's a lot of that missing. There's a lot of disconnection these days everywhere. I was going to ask you if you could leave listeners with one takeaway from your journey. What would it be?
That's a big thing to ask. Well, I'd like to also, I got to thank my dad, because my dad dropped everything he was doing in his life and came out and supported me across the whole state of Texas. And I owe so much to him, because he helped me grow, and that made our father-son bond. Like, we became best friends. So I owe so much to him, and I love my mom, my dad, my brother. But if I could leave you with one thing, I'd say, oh gosh, live a life of integrity, live a life of character, live your life selflessly, live your life selfishly. Do things for yourself, do things for others, be grateful, be mindful, have self-awareness, and you're never alone. Never give up, and always strive to grow, to learn, and to be a better person. And no matter what you go through in life, things always get better.
That's true. Well, thank you so much for sharing, for being so honest, so transparent, so raw. I will share with everyone on the episode description your book, your channels, and hopefully we can continue to grow the movement to help others that are struggling with mental health. Thank you, Kevin, so much.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It was a pleasure and an honor. Thank you.
And that's all for today's episode. I want to thank the listeners for tuning in. Your support means everything. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider following, leaving a review, and sharing it with your friends.